Yeah, this is the blue one with the ink.
ちょっと面白いなって思ってました。
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
This is night time.
It's night time.
Yeah.
What time exactly?
6 p.m.
Okay, then I became interested in textiles basically out of painting. I was trained as a painter. So actually every piece of textile that I make or dye, I still see them as paintings. So also that's the reason why I hang them on the wall or sometimes frame them as well. So I also became interested in like old patterns or traditional textiles in the relationship with like postmodern European painting or abstract painting. And I find like there's a lot of similar aesthetics. So I started dyeing textiles quite easily. I used like ink or sometimes also chlorine to make like a resist. To do the opposite, to dye out the color instead of adding the color. So I will now also put like 2 images so you can see. One is made of with the chlorine and one is with Indian ink. The ink one is the blue piece, and then the dots of black is Indian ink. And then the black work was just a piece of black fabric, and then I dyed out the color with chlorine. So I experimented a lot trying to how to dye the fabrics in a very easy way, and in the end I turned them into collages to hang them on the wall. So there are all kinds of different like for example in the first piece you see there's very orange work that is rust. I used paper clips and I let them rust in acid. And I used the shibori also to make these patterns. But how you see it, all the pieces together is one work. So that is the piece. So that was sort of a starting point working with textiles. And then I became more and more intrigued by, for example, indigo. So I went to Africa, to Nigeria to work with the indigo pits over there. And I made several pieces as well. Yeah, any questions or not really?
絞りっすね。
So these are actually strips. So you cannot really see on the photo. I cut all in lines and then I weave them back together. So that's why you get this this kind of stairway pattern. So this was just an indigo cloth, and then I also dyed out or made the indigo. I dyed it out as well, and then I sewn them back together. It's also it's the same concept really. It's also start with just an indigo piece of textile, and then I dyed out the color using acid.
じゃあ最初のそのカットする前の状態っていうのはもう本当にインディゴで真っ青になってる状態ですかね。
Yeah, I purchased this in Kano. And in Kano you have the indigo pits that are quite old. I think they're already like 800 years old and still in use, like sort of. It was dipped in indigo several times, so it was quite a dark blue. Yeah.
Quite okay.
So the only thing that I did is dyeing out the indigo. So I used acid to make the indigo light. So then I became like more interested in all kinds of using different kind of materials and different kind of textiles. So these are the bark cloth, like the textile made out of bark that I made in Borneo in Sarawak. And also I became interested in framing, so I framed them in different kind of colors to add the colors of the frames are inspired by the sky. So I have like a dark blue one, but I also have pink ones that reference like sunset, for example, or yellow.
この木の皮の作品も同じような手法ですか？後でこう脱色したり切り張りしたりっていう形に見えます。
Yeah. After also working with, I was very interested in the frames as well, because I think it adds something completely different to the works. So what I was doing now is also combining I made some small pieces of weaving. This is made out of raffia. And I have like a multicolored frame. So I also feel for me it's also interesting to find things that I never knew it existed before. Like for example, the bar cloth, I never heard about it before, and then I just came across it when I was on Borneo, and I thought, oh, this is really special. So I visited and saw how they make it, and I was searching for also how they make it still in like a traditional way. And then I decided to work with it, and also that's something I'm interested in doing more in the future as well, like working more with crafts. Yeah, and what is interesting also, there's this whole world of like beautiful things being made, but also sometimes it's in danger, like people are buy more cheaper stuff, or they mix up the natural dyes with chemicals because it's cheaper and it's more easy. So I'm more interested in like crafts that are still being made in an original way, like using natural fibers or natural colors. That's very important. And there's also like a poetic side. I'm also interested in like making something poetic, so I add often titles from for example poetry, or all the indigo works they have the titles of stars in Arab, and the bar cloth, they all have titles coming from the original tribes in Borneo, how they describe the patterns on their textiles.
そのもともとあるやっぱ染色技法だったり現地の原住民からのその伝わることとかを扱っていて、ポールの中で共通する点っていうのはどういったところだと思いますか？
I was not searching for it. I was not doing it on purpose. So I just came, for example, the barcode, it just came across during my time there, and then I just saw it and I thought, oh, what is this? And then I find out more and more and more. I try not to look for similarities really, but I think there are there's a lot of aesthetics that are quite the same. Like also, like for example, if you dig deep into indigo, you can find it all over the world. It's like in India, in Africa, in Japan, in China. I think that's very interesting to me. So you have like, but of course there's like small differences. Like I know that in India they take out the grains, for example, for the plants. Like, and in Africa they just put the whole plant in the pit. But basically, in the end, it all turns out the same color. Yeah, I think that was quite it, no?
作品見て、で、なんかそうですね、面白いところとか、なんか自分と多分出発点は違うんですけど、多分近いところで、彼はペインティングからで、僕は染色からで、お互い違うことを望んで、近いところにいるような気はしました。
I think maybe it's a nice idea. We use that cloth and just work on it, so we can just see it next week and can just work on it in the next meetings. And then in the end, there's just one piece that is dyed in, I don't know what will turn out to become.
そうですね、あれはあれでなんか面白かったと思います。一応なんか次の工程を僕は進めていました。
The current process?
Yeah, see. Yeah, I think it's nice as a starting point. Maybe in the middle you have these two lines. Maybe you can fill them up in a different kind of mold, maybe like indigo mold or another color. So only the horizontal line.
The white part is.
Like two lines coming together, and in the middle there's a little bit of the red. So if you both two parts, maybe dye them in a different color, but also using the mold, just maybe scoop it and let it rest on the textile. And then next week we can take it off and see how it becomes.
多分あともし例えばインディゴの場合とかだとどうだろう、カビというか多分ポールもわかると思うんですけど、多分泡状になってるんですよね。うんうん。それでもいいのかなって。
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But I think maybe you make the textile wet first before you add the bubbles.
Textile wet.
Yeah, so maybe it will splurge a little bit.
僕こんなにこれ色残るって思いませんでした。初めてだったんですけど。うん。
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting working with the molds instead of the dye itself.
この部分わかるかな。くっついてるような部分。
ついてる部分、はい。
なんかここがなんか僕はカビが色になっていく様に見えてちょっと面白いなって思ってました。
Yeah, that's quite beautiful.
うん、そうですね。良さそう。いやでもなんかいろいろこれできると思いますね。
Yes, exactly. But I think it's nice if we try out like several ideas, but also just using the same piece of cloth.
うん、そうですね。どこまで何ができるかっていうのをちょっと僕も見てみたいですね。
Okay, cool. Then we have a plan.
このやり方僕すごくやりやすいです。最初から結構何をやるかって決めるよりかも今回のやつとかも偶発的にこうできるのをどこでそれを拾うか拾わないかみたいなアイデアの出し方とかはすごく好きです。
Yeah, and I really like to play with things because I'm not like a professional. So sometimes you do something completely wrong, but it turns out that the result is quite different and actually quite pretty in a way.